Modern Horizons 2 spoilers are coming out, and you know what? They merit a video on their own. I will do a complete set recap at some point once we have all the information, but we got to talk about some of these cards now because they are absolutely incredible. Force of Negation is a huge reprint. The card has climbed close to $100, being not only an essential card for Modern, but also multiple copies past your 4 Force of Wills for many decks in Legacy. Not unusual at all to see a couple of Force of Negations in decks like Delver of Secrets. So now you've got Force Days and Force of Negation. And you know what? Sometimes having Cancel in your deck is amazing, where you can just pay 3 mana and counter the spell. Exiling it is also of consequence a surprising amount of the time. And really, the only thing you can say about this is it doesn't stop creatures, but you know what? There's a million other ways to do that. So this is a absolutely tremendous card, good enough for the best formats, and Modern now has more access to it. Now, this is the old border version. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to mean in terms of the print run of any of this. I'm just talking about the quality of the cards for now. I will have to delve in and find out precisely the occurrence of these alternate art cards and all of those things before making any type of statement about what I think might happen to values overall. Giver of Runes, another example of this old border treatment that everybody loved so much from Time Spiral, remastered most recently. People just absolutely loving it. Cabal coffers, a huge printing. So here we've got, you know, I was going to say the torment symbol on there. I'm not sure that's actually exactly the torment symbol. That feels a little bit more rounded off. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I feel like they messed with those symbols for Masters 25, which I don't understand. Like, if you're trying to do nostalgia, I feel like you respect the source and like you just use those same things. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't translate as well when it's blown up. I can't really say, but we've got Cabal coffers in this new card frame. I believe the promo was a new card frame, if I'm remembering correctly, but this is going to be a major source of joy for black mages everywhere, as their mana base is just getting a huge shot in the arm. And of course, this plays incredibly well with Urborg, making all of your lands, including the Cabal coffers, a swamp is very spicy. And remember, not legendary, so I would not be surprised if a mono black shell ends up being powerful at some point. I suppose if you ban enough stuff, mono black does become good. But Cabal coffers, really a tremendous mana generator. Not quite on par with Gaia's Cradle, but can do similarly broken stuff when given enough road. And we also have a beautiful full art version as well. And this is coming in at Mythic, so it's going to be interesting to see what this does to the price of Cabal coffers, which has been very, very high in recent months. Yusri Fortune's Flame, this 3 mana Efreet. It's a 2/3 flyer, and then whenever it attacks, you can flip in between 1 and 5 coins, and you're either going to draw a card or take 2 damage for each of those flips. And if you won all 5 flips, then you can cast spells from your hand this turn without paying their mana cost. So what is that like? It's like 3% of the time. Yeah, that's not a lot. That's not going to happen very often, but it'll be really fun when it does and super memorable. There's Goblin Bomb or Goblin Game. There's definitely a card. Let me know in the comments. There's already an effect that if you win 5 flips, then you win the game. So this is, gonna be fun. Now with Kark's thumb, this could certainly be much more doable. And then it's actually going to be let's see, this is the one from the bundle, and this is the one that you'll be getting out of booster packs. Flame Tongue Yearling. I mean, I love Flame Tongue Kavu. Invasion is really where looking back, I suppose that's where I became like a Magic professional, I suppose. It's when I really started trading to make money, and it started to actually create a solid amount of value for me, winning tournaments and trading. And FTK, back in the day, Flame Tongue Kavu was just absolutely ridiculous. So many of my decks would literally be able to just go infinite in draft. You could just grind people out, putting creatures on top of your library, and then continually drawing FTK each turn. If your opponent doesn't play a creature, you can just keep drawing cards as normal, but if you need to, plug the gate, just pop the FTK back on top, get that extra ETB, and man, those decks, those were something. Did a lot of black. So the best color combination at that point was Grixis, but I would go blue, red, white, and white was an excellent foil to that main archetype, and you still got all of the best red and blue. I loved Invasion Block for that. So a little trip down memory lane. That is what this is looking to evoke. That's supposed to dredge up these memories and those feelings. The art evokes Flame Tongue Kavu, and the card's not that far off. I mean, the nice thing here is you got 2 for a 2/1. So worst case scenario, you've got a body. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature. And also, it enters the battlefield with +1/+1 counter on it for each time it was kicked. So you're going to be doing 3 damage for 4 or just 2 to do 2. And I think this card is absolutely phenomenal. And it's going to be very, very good in Limited, but I'd imagine a welcome addition to Modern. Yeah, at first glance, I didn't even realize that it does the 2 damage even if you don't kick it. Like, I'm very impressed by this card. Just 2 to do 2 with a body, or you can, wow. I mean, that's some fun right there. Thrasta, Tempest's Roar. We got a 12 casting cost 7/7, but it costs 3 less for each other spell cast this turn. And it has trample and haste, and it tramples over planeswalkers, the first time that we've seen that. And it has hexproof as long as it entered the battlefield this turn. So that is pretty impressive. You're going to be able to cast this for just 2 mana in a lot of crazy games, 3 mana with 3 spells ahead of it. And yeah, I think casual players will have a lot of fun with this. And those big casting costs are of interest for a lot of reasons. Like, there are cards that care about mana costs, especially, there's some commander decks that have fun with that type of thing, where you're putting in, I believe it was Kadama the East Tree, like, you get a creature with mana cost less than the creature you just cast, so you could put this in for like 2 mana and then cast a free, Eldrazi or something. So commander players will have a lot of fun with this. And we do have this treatment here. This feels like it wanted to be a Godzilla card. Unmarked Grave. 2 mana sorcery. Search your library for a non-legendary card. Put it in your graveyard and shuffle. So we've got Entomb for 2 mana, but it can't touch your Gristlebrand or your Iona or your Elish Norn. It's interesting. I don't know at first glance what to think about that. It doesn't wow me at 2 mana. I feel like Entomb is so strong because it's 1. At 3 mana, we do have Buried Alive. So, yeah, I don't know if this feels like it's in the middle of the train tracks to me, that you want like a 1 mana spell or you want your Buried Alive. But, I mean, maybe there's going to be room for that in Modern. If anyone thinks there's going to be a deck around that, go ahead and let us know in the comments. Profane Tutor. Interesting card here. So you're going to suspend for 2, and you're going to get a card. Search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, shuffle your library. So Demonic Tutor for 2 mana, 2 turns later. Probably the more exciting thing here for me is the Richard Kane Ferguson art. Big fan of his artwork. Actually, I mean, I don't know if I can say I regret, but the Hammer of Bogarden was available at one point on the market, and I didn't pick it up. And I will always remember that. Maybe I'll make a bid for that at some point in the future, track down where it is. But that is a card that was in my original decks. Oh, no, sorry, it was Pillage, not Hammer of Bogarden. That's, I think, Ron Spencer. I misspoke there. It was Pillage, and that was just such a cool card. One of the first cards that I purchased, and the flavor text on it is just top-notch. But here we go. Classic Magic the Gathering artist back at the top of his craft, making memorable art for a whole new generation. And this ability, I mean, it's very strong. I mean, Suspend 2 we'll see how much of a drawback that ends up being. It's fairly substantial. This also, plays with all of the enablers for the 0 casting cost things, like As Foretold, for example. Being able to play that for 0 is very interesting. And there's the regular version. Grief. This has got to be the card that wowed me the most. This is why I really felt like I had to do the video here. This is an upgrade to a vintage playable card. So this is crazy for Dredge. We're already running Unmask. Now we've got the Evoke is exiling a black card from your hand, which is the same as Unmask. However, this is a 3/2 body with an ETB. So this is going to enter the battlefield. Never mind shenanigans with like Ephemerate and like flickering this thing out and getting like double discard off of it, which is crazy strong. But you've also got this body which interacts with things like Bridge from Below. So you could, evoke this guy out and then have bridges get bodies on top of it. Yeah, I mean, this card just wow. Just wow. It's also a black creature to remove for Icarid. It's like someone on the team there really liked Dredge and just wanted to just take it up another level. And that's not to say that you don't run Unmask as well. I mean, this can push it to 8 Unmask effects, which if discard is preferable to, say, Force of Negation, I mean, there you go. You can have Force of Negation and Force of Will and Grief and Unmask. Just so much discard. And of course, this plays super well with Cabal Therapy, getting a look at their hand and then casting your therapies with more accuracy. Just unreal. And I'm sure there's applications outside of Dredge as well in fast combo decks, but this card, wow. And just a really cool alternate art version as well. Kind of a little bit of the shadow creature vibe from Game of Thrones with Renly. Rishadan Dockhand, 1 casting cost, 1/2, Island Walk, Merfolk, and you can pay 1 to tap a land. I did hear some people saying that this should be a pirate. I mean, honest day's work for an honest day's pay, people. Like, this is a Dockhand. He's not a pirate. I mean, it's a little problematic to just be lumping him in. But is it because he's a merfolk? Do you have something against merfolk? Is that what it is? He's an honest worker, and he taps down your opponent's lands. The nice thing about this compared to Rishadan Port is it doesn't use your land drop, so you kind of can ramp into this a little bit more effectively than Rishadan Port might allow. However, it is vulnerable to literally a stiff breeze, being just a 1/2 and a spell. So we'll see if this ends up being something that revitalizes Merfolk. It feels like it might be, as that can be really disruptive, especially when paired with more targeted land destruction and ways of hindering your opponent's mana base. So this one's really interesting in Vile decks. A lot of the time, the Vile decks are looking for something to do with that extra mana, and this seems like it could end up at least being tested. I mean, I have no doubt that people are going to try and see how this goes. And it's basically one card that just locks down your opponent's lands for the rest of the game, potentially. Timeless Dragon, a little bit of a nod to Eternal Dragon here, the original Scourge value engine. Here, you're going to be able to plane cycle, and then instead of returning it to your hand to do it again, you can just pay 4 and get a 4/4 version of this with wings. So very interesting card, plane cycles, and you're able to just get a 4/4 for 4 out of the bin, and that seems very, very strong. It also is a activated ability instead of casting it out of the graveyard, so it's not something that people are going to be able to counterspell, and this one seems really strong. I would be surprised if this doesn't see play. Dakin Shadow Slayer. We've got Bant on this. Again, Richard Kane Ferguson with some really flavorful art. And this one's going to enter the battlefield with a number of loyalty counters on him equal to the number of lands you control. Fun throwback. And then +1 to surveil 2. Or you can -3 to exile a creature. Or you can put an artifact from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield for his ultimate, as people tend to call it, is -6. So, I mean, this seems really strong to me. 3 mana to exile target creature at sorcery speed is not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, you want to like a good version of that would be 2 mana instant speed. So you're paying 1 more mana, but you're getting this Planeswalker body out of it, and potentially a ton of loyalty for a control deck. And this one impresses me. I think control decks are going to enjoy this card. And we've got a couple of different versions. Not exactly my cup of tea here, but still masterfully done. And then we've got the, I forget what they're calling these, sketch versions or something. These are pretty cool. Yeah, I like it. It's very interesting. It's a different look, and I think that is one of the things that we need to be... I'm glad that Wizards is doing this. I'm glad that they've created the idea of what a Magic card is, and now they're subverting that in creative and interesting ways. And it's not everything. It's not like they took the whole game and said, hey, everything that you like, if you've grown accustomed to it, we're throwing it in the trash. They're still doing the aesthetic that they've established, but now they're giving us different looks, different options for players. And I think, for me, these will be successful if they actually command a premium. That's really where I'm at with all of these alternate art versions and different versions. Is if the players want them, which is reflected by their value, like if they're high value as a result of people wanting them, then I consider it successful. If these just ends up being kind of like nobody cares, it's a wash, it's almost a negative at that point, because you're looking for a playset that's all the same and you got multiple versions and nobody cares. So I don't enjoy that. But if we can see these commanding a premium and being something that people are really excited about, then I am totally signing off on it. And back to Force of Negation. It's quite a round of spoilers. So I will be keeping an eye on it. If there are any other spoilers as exciting as Grief, and I mean, I really like that FTK, baby FTK as well. But that said, if there's more of that, expect more of these videos. Otherwise, we will be doing a full recap of the entire set and giving our thoughts about the limited environment and how it's going to impact Modern. And mostly, I'm more interested in Legacy and Vintage, but I'll try and cover all of the bases here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.